Hey, welcome back to Yap Lab 7, and today we are talking how to heal your attachment style, how to go from being anxious or avoidant to being securely attached. Let's talk about it. Before all that, I just want to say though that I like that intro better. If you watch my first 2 episodes, I have this like purple and then the title thingy, but I feel like I prefer this one because it's like a video of a coffee that I made, and I think it's just personal. I don't know. You don't have to understand it, but I think you get it, right? You get it. And aside from the new intro, I think I really like this name now. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I started this channel like more than a year ago. I made videos and then I was so inconsistent and then I just stopped. But my name before is Vanilla Moon, and then I changed it to Vanilla Moon Lab. I still don't know until today what those name means. But I know what yap means, like we're just talking, and I'm talking lots here, and hopefully it's like good talk. Hopefully I'm not wasting your time and you're actually learning something from my videos. And as a proof that I've changed my name, before I left doing videos and before I stopped making content before, I have this. I printed this out on a plain canvas. It's the name Vanilla Moon Lab, and I'll show you. See, so you could see the name. It's Vanilla Moon Lab, and then our little chemist or scientist doing work, and I think it's so adorable. And yeah, I think Yap Lab 7 is more natural and more me, and it's just what resonates with me now. I mean, I yap and I love yapping, and I also like cooking something in these videos and helping people. And since my videos are a little bit long form, if not very long form, my man told me to put timestamp. He recommended me to do that for people who just don't want to like have chit chats, you know. And I get that, okay? I also like timestamps on YouTube, so I'm gonna do that. And speaking of helping people, I receive 2 DMs and 2 wonderful comments in my YouTube. I think it's on my first episode. Between those 2 episodes, my first episodes, I did not expect that video to have like a positive impact. Like my goal in making these videos is always positive and helping people and making you feel less lonely. And I just made that video with that intention in mind, but then I started to receive messages and comments saying, like, I actually helped them realize something and learn something about themselves. And it's just like, it warms my heart. And I really want to thank you. If you're only watching me for the first time, I want to say thank you for clicking on this video. I hope you like this. I hope you learned something. And I hope you can be friends and have these types of conversation always. And if you're not new here, if you're an old subscribers, or if you're new, or if you've been watching me since episode 1, I'm very thankful for you. And I just want to say thank you. And I think yourself is also grateful that you watched and listened to this type of content, because it means you're trying to improve yourself. You're trying to be better. And you use your free time or even your free space in your mind to improve yourself by listening to this type of podcast or watching this type of self-improvement, self-growth, self-development types of videos. And yeah, I am sure that your inner self is so thankful and happy that you're taking care of her or him or them in this way. Like, you're nurturing your inner self, you're nurturing your healing journey, and I think I just want to say I'm so proud of you. Yeah, I really am proud of you. So on my previous episode 2, I talked about, I really dug deep into the 2 attachment styles, and I was so sciencey. I'm like giving scientist names, I'm giving specific dates, certain experiment and research, and I was like, I'm looking back at that and like, it's good, right? I mean, I got positive and good reviews, but I just want this video, this episode 3, to be more conversational. And yeah, I promise there's no sciencey stuff. I'm just giving you my tips. Every tips that I'm gonna give to you in this video is coming from experience and from my heart. So I hope it works for you, because it worked for a lot of people and it worked for me as well. So I'm gonna start with anxious attachment and then go to avoidant attachment. If you're an avoidant and you just wanna watch for yourself, you could just jump to that, okay? So I think that timestamp recommendation is really smart. So if you have any feedback, any suggestions, you could DM me, you could email me, you could talk to me on YouTube. I have the same name, YapLab7, everywhere. And I still don't know what YapLab7 even means. If this is your first time seeing my video, you could go to episode 2, and if you don't want to do that and learn about the 2 attachment styles, I'll just give you a quick explanation right now. So anxious attachment style is like when a person is desperately clinging and chasing attention, time, and love from their partner constantly. So they want it 24/7, and when they don't get it, they have this fear of abandonment and they chase it even more, and they would go into spiral and they would get jealous and they would, overthink stuff. And an avoidant attachment is when a person is like, they also want that love and they would chase and pursue that love, and once they get it and the emotions and the closeness are too intimate and the emotions are too high, they would just go run away and escape. They might come back when they've regulated and they've missed you, but the thing is, they're scared of commitment, they're scared of being emotionally open to their partner, and they would ghost you. That's their thing. They would disappear. And today we are learning how to unlearn these things, and we are going to heal our attachment styles together with these tips. And like I always said, the goal is to be securely attached. So that's what we're talking about in this video. So how do you go from being overly clingy, overly critical, overly overthinking, to someone who is like secure about the love they receive and the love that they give? So we're gonna look at this as something we have to fix, right? I'm just gonna be frank with you on that. This is not like a cutesy little thing, because like I said in my previous video, avoidant or anxious attachment are insecure attachment styles, and they could ruin you, your relationship, and your partner. So there's nothing really cutesy about that. So it's a problem that needs to be fixed. And to fix any problem, you gotta go to the root of the problem. So an insecure attachment style always starts with childhood wound. So you gotta look and observe your upbringing, your childhood, and your primary caregiver growing up. So how did your primary caregiver gave and met your needs, and how did your primary caregiver did not meet your needs? And how did your primary caregiver talk to you when you make a mistake, when you're in a conflict, or when you're sad, and how did they comfort you? How did your primary caregiver talk to you when you were in distress, when the emotions are high, and how did they not talk to you? Okay, so for an anxiously attached person, chances are their caregiver growing up was someone who is like very inconsistent with their love and care. So one day they're very loving, the next day they're not. And it's just an ongoing cycle. And it would really wound and hurt a child, especially emotionally. And again, if you had a really rough childhood, you don't want to relive these traumas anymore. You don't want to look back to this dramatic memories, these bad memories, and think about them again. But the thing is, this is the root of the problem. So we have to start here. And I understand that reliving these traumas is like replaying a really traumatic and bad movie scene again and again and again. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that as a child. But now that you're an adult and this is now your responsibility to fix. And the first step is accepting that, and the first step is healing that inner child wound. If someone doesn't want to replay their childhood anymore, like I know some people who doesn't, like they don't want to even talk about it. They don't want to look at their childhood pictures. They don't want to like reconnect with people who was there for their childhood because their childhood was so rough. And my piece of advice for those people who want to heal but also is like so scared of what they might see and what they might encounter again is to reflect. So you still gotta dig deep into those wounds at your own pace. And when things are too much, when it gets too scary, you can refrain. So you could back off a little bit and then you could repeat. And this could help you in a way that it's not rushing you. There's no deadline. And you could do this and heal at your own pace. So in order to get deeper in those inner child wounds is you gotta reflect slowly, and if things get too scary, you can refrain and you could always repeat and come back. And hopefully as long as you do this, and if you do this like the second time, the third time, the fourth time, it will get easier as time goes by. Like you would go deeper and deeper and it would feel more natural and it would feel more safer. So now that we know what you're gonna heal, your anxious attachment style, and we now understand why you have this attachment style, now we're gonna look at your how, and that is your pattern. So this step is talking about your patterns as an adult in your relationship. It could be friendship or anything, but in this video, I'm just gonna tell you that we're talking about relationships. If you have an anxious attachment style, your number one pattern is you overthink a lot. You overthink when your partner's away, you overthink their texts, you overthink the time of their texts and replies, you overthink where they are, you overthink their tone and the change in their moods and their behavior. You overthink this a lot as an anxious person. And as an anxious attached person, you demand your partner's time and attention and love 24/7. It's this constant demand, this constant need for validation and affection and reassurance. And when you don't get these things right away, you panic, you assume, you overthink, you go into spiral, and you chase them. So an anxiously attached person overthinks a lot because uncertainty and delay is a threat for them. It ignites this fear of abandonment. It relieves their childhood trauma where their primary caregiver was inconsistent with their love. So it's like it hits them deep. It's like it triggers their fear of abandonment. For an anxiously attached person, if you triggered their fear of rejection, their fear of abandonment, they would overthink. And when they would overthink, they would assume things and create fake scenarios. And these fake scenarios would make them even more scared and anxious. So they would try and close that gap by chasing you and like just being close to you, even though you also have your own life and you also deserve your own space. An anxiously attached person tend to not understand that because it creates this trigger that, oh, this is the type of inconsistency that I grew up with. So now this person is being inconsistent with me, so I have to chase them so they would love me again and I would be worthy of their love. That is what's going on in their head. And now that you know what you have to heal, your anxious attachment style, why do you act this way? Because of your childhood, your upbringing, and how do these things come up during adulthood, your pattern. Now we're gonna know your when. So when do these things, this pattern comes up? This is talking about your triggers. Triggers are what pushes your anxious attachment to come up. Because here's the thing, right? These anxious tendencies, this overthinking, this chasing, They don't come up when you feel safe, when you're close to your partner, when you feel happy. This comes up when there's a distance, when there's conflict. So this is where trigger comes. So one trigger for an anxiously attached person is silence. So this is when during a conflict their partner asks for space. And this triggers their fear of abandonment and rejection, and this gives them this feeling of, oh my, someone that's supposed to be loving me is being distant and they're being inconsistent, even though their partner just asked for space to regulate themselves. And anxiously attached person always want to resolve things right away. They always want to fix fights right away. But the thing is, some things just need space. Some things just need space. You can talk to yourself like this and tell this to yourself when you're feeling like you want to do something impulsively. Some things just need space, and that's okay. Another trigger for an anxiously attached person is slow replies and short texts. That could trigger them. An anxiously attached person would think like the partner is distancing themselves and they're gonna leave them. It's crazy, I know, but it happens. Another trigger that I could think of is change of plans, breaking promises, or when their partner is doing life outside the relationship. So that could be work, that could be their partner's social life, that could be their partner just spending time alone. And without knowing these patterns or triggers, these toxic behaviors, you could be on your partner's way and also living their life and regulating themselves. So you're actually ruining your partner's lives when you do these things. So that's why we heal. And the next step is to regulate your emotions and regulate yourself. So when you're anxious and when you're feeling all these high emotions, your physical body would also react. So you might shake, you might sweat, you might become pale, you might, just panic physically. So what you're going to do is to learn how to calm yourselves down, especially during high emotion situations, especially during conflict, especially when you're overthinking and you just can't control yourself. This is the time to learn how to control yourself and learn how to calm yourself down. So when you feel these things, this anxiety, you can leave the room, leave the situation. You could go for a walk. You could play some music. You could find some relaxing music and listen to it. You could do some jumping jacks. You could splash water on your face. You could squeeze your hand. That's what I do when I'm feeling anxious. And yeah, that could help. And you might think, that's too textbooky. Like, that's so much of a textbook, how to calm yourself when you're anxious type. But you know why it's in the textbook? Because they fucking work. Believe it or not, they fucking work. If you don't want to do it, okay, stay in step 3. Why am I being so sassy? So yeah, that's step 4. You gotta learn how to regulate and calm yourself. And when you feel triggered, you have this urge to act immediately and do something impulsively. So just talk to yourself. Just say, some things just need space. Or you could put your phone down, you could shut it off, or you could just wait like 5 minutes before responding to a text message. That could also work. And I know you agree, you don't want to do that again. You don't want to say things that might hurt you, your partner, and your relationship. No, we don't want that. And another way to regulate yourself as an anxiously attached person is to learn how to self-reassure. So realistically, you cannot ask for reassurance 24/7. Like, realistically, your partner cannot do that. That's too much, okay? They have work, they have other people in their lives, and realistically, they don't revolve around you, okay? So you gotta learn how to self-reassure yourself. You gotta learn how to reassure yourself. Okay, that's better. It's like when you feel like your partner's being distant, you tell yourself, nope, they're just asking for space. And they do that because they don't want to say the wrong things. They don't want to hurt me because they love me. And when your anxious mind is telling you, oh, they're gonna break up with you because they're taking so long to respond, they're cheating on you, they're flirting with other people at work, you tell yourself, no, I trust my partner, and we've been through thick and thin together, and I know they love me, and they're just at work, they're just in school, and they're just busy, and they would respond to me when they're free. And you gotta think, this works, this friends, these hobbies, this social life, these things that they want to do, this alone time, these things that you think are keeping your partner away from you, is actually helpful because when they come back, they're more loving, they miss you more, and they're just more regulated. So you want that, right? So let them have their space. Some things just need space, and that's okay. So the fifth and the last step of this is just try your best to be consistent. Okay, so you know your what's, your childhood, you know why you act that way, you know how this thing comes up, you know when this thing comes up, you know how to regulate yourself, and you just have to be consistent. And if you slip, that's fine. Healing is not linear. And I know ups and downs, black and white, somewhere in between, it's giving uncertainty. And you fear that, and you don't want that. But that's just life. The thing is, 80% of the things you overthink did not happen. So, yeah, some things just need space, and that's okay. So now we're going to talk about how to heal your avoidant attachment styles. A person who has avoidant attachment style could be someone who would chase that love, they need that love, they crave that love, but when it's time to be open emotionally and receive that love and be in that love and high emotion and that connection and closeness, they would get scared and they would run away. And how do we heal this? How do we go from someone who would always run away from their feelings and emotions, running away from love and relationships, and running away from giving themselves that care and love and connection that they actually need? So first, we gotta look at the problem, the root of the problem. So this is you, again, reflecting, refraining, and repeating. You gotta reflect on your inner wound. And if it gets too much, and if it gets too scary, you could refrain and just repeat. Okay? So a person with avoidant attachment style has this caregiver who are so distant, who were always busy, who were so emotionally unavailable. So they might get the things that a child needs, except for one very important thing, which is emotional bond and emotional closeness with their caregiver. An avoidant could be someone who is like a kid growing up with a parent who is like always working, and someone who gives them silent treatment instead of talking to them when they did something wrong. And sometimes this could also be parents who just gives them material things like toys or money to shut their emotions off. Or this could be the type of parents who would just shut you off when you tell them something. And by telling something, I mean communicating your need for closeness, right? So when you tell your parents, when you're an avoidant, this is the type of parent that you have. So you tell them, hey mom, I got an, I don't know, A+ in history. And they're gonna be like, okay. And then they just continue on doing something or saying something, and they would just shut you off. Or you could be someone who's like, hey mom, I really need a hug, or like, I'm really sad today. And they would be like, they would like brush that emotion off. They're gonna be like, oh, you'll get over it, or just man up, or just forget about it, or you're being too much, you're overreacting. So those things could create an avoidant attached person. When I think about this type of caregivers, I always think about in Despicable Me, like Gru's mom, when he's like, "Hey mom, I built a rocket or something." And the mom is like, she's never satisfied. And yeah, I mean, Gru is the avoidant attached king, if you really look into it. So now we have the root of the problem, we have now the what and the why. So now we gotta look at the hows. How does this type of caregiver, how does this type of relationship comes up in adulthood? But one thing I just remembered though, you could actually create an avoidant attached kid if you, as a parent, is also overreacting and overly critical and overly emotional. If you're an emotional parent who would react to the small little things with big emotions, that would create an emotionally closed off kid, an avoidant adult. So yeah, now let's talk about the pattern. How does this things comes up in adulthood, right? So these people would be emotionally shut off. They would shut down their emotions, they would be distant, they would be emotionally unavailable, or at least try their best to seem emotionally unavailable, because on the surface they're like very distant and nonchalant, but in reality, like deep inside them, they're very scared of being too much. They're very scared of being seen as overreacting or overly emotional, and they have this fear of abandonment and rejection. So one of the known patterns of avoidant attached person is when they're talking to someone new, when they're trying to, like I said, pursue and seek a connection, they would talk to someone and everything would go well. Everything is perfect. And they would get scared that this person would see who they really are, and they would feel this unworthiness of love, and they would fear rejection, so they would just back away and ghost and never respond again. So as the person on the other side, as a person who talks to the avoidant, you'll be caught off guard. You'll be like, what the fuck just happened? We were having a good date. We were having so much fun talking to each other and getting to know each other. Now they just ghosted me. And I know a lot of you. Yeah, you're dealing with an avoidant right now. And I know you're living in hell because they're not trying to heal. So it's up to you if you really want to continue this. Or you could just send them this video. It would be fun. You would help them to heal. You would get the relationship that you need from that avoidant, and I would also get views. So win-win. You got a business deal. And another pattern, which is I know is real because I've experienced them in the past, is avoidant attached people tend to glorify their ex. It doesn't mean they miss them or their ex is like this perfect, person. No, it's just their way to protect themselves from catching feelings for you. So when they think that their ex was this, so perfect, their ex is like just the best partner that they could ever have, and they could never find someone like their ex, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's real. Okay? The thing is, they just say that to protect themselves, to comfort themselves, and be detached from you because they don't want to catch feelings, because if they did, that's a disaster for them. Another pattern that avoidants have is they would pick on the smallest little things that you have just to give themselves the ick, just to turn themselves off, especially when things are going well and they really like you as a person. They would look for their flaws, for their quirks that would turn them off. They would look for the flaws. They would look at how you chew or how you talk or how you handle your life or how you walked. They would pick on these little things just to justify themselves ghosting. They're gonna tell themselves like, oh, but she walks weird, and she chews too loudly, or he talks too loudly, oh, he snores, right? So in their head, it's like it's okay for me to leave because I have valid reasons to leave, even though they're not really that valid. You just want to ghost. You just want to leave because you're scared. And another last thing that I could think of as one of their patterns, and I could relate to this personally because I did this before, but I could also relate to this because I have friends who are dealing with avoidant and they're still friends with that avoidant for years. And that's another pattern that I notice. An avoidant attached person is always going to put you in friend zone. They're going to be like, oh, let's just be friends. I really like what we have. I don't want to ruin it. So let's just be friends. And you, who are so in love with this avoidant charm, you're going to be like, oh yeah, we could be friends. I'm okay with that. So now they get that connection and affection and love from you, but they could back away anytime because they're just friends. And yeah, like I said, people always see them as a villain, as the bad guy, but they're just as toxic and as scared and as anxious as an anxiously attached person because, they came from the same formula. Fucked up caregivers. So like I said, when an avoidant person is happy, they feel safe and they feel free and they feel like their freedom is not being sacrificed here, their avoidant tendencies wouldn't come out. It would only come out when there's conflict and there's high emotions. So number one trigger is when a partner is demanding or showing too much love. So an avoidant would be scared of this closeness. When you want to hug them or when you just want to be open about your feelings and you want to talk about emotions and feelings, they would shut off and they would want to run away. And another trigger is when they feel like their partner is emotionally depending on them. So when their partner is only happy when they're together, or their partner is only feeling safe when they're around, an avoidant attached person would see that as a threat to their freedom. So yeah, like I said, when you text all day, when you've been spending time all day, expect them to spend the next day being distant, okay? That's their trigger. Another trigger for an avoidant person is long-term commitment, talks about long-term commitments like business, kids, relationship, marriage. That would scare the living shit out of an avoidant person. That is 10 out of 10 horror movie for them. Because the number one thing that avoidant people don't want is a threat to their freedom and their independence. They don't want to give that away because that is what is safe for them. Okay, so the next step is learning how to regulate yourself as an avoidant person. Okay, so how do we regulate ourselves as an avoidant attached person? So number one is to understand that emotions, no matter how bad you think emotions are, they are necessary, they are a need, and they are normal. You have to understand that emotions are very human. Emotions are what makes us who we are. It's what makes you and me human, and it's totally normal. Another way to regulate yourself as an avoidant person is to communicate these needs, to communicate your emotions without having to run away and escape. So you can communicate these things and tell your person, your partner, or someone you're talking to, whatever, something like, I don't know, hey, I really like talking to you and I could see we're a really compatible, good match. But I just want to tell you that I have this fear of my independence being taken away when I commit to a relationship. And yeah, you could go from there. I'm sure the right person would actually understand that if you also try to, heal and regulate yourself. And if you're on a date with someone, you could tell them things like, hey, I really enjoyed that date and I'm really excited and looking forward for a second date. But if I don't respond this week, you have all the rights to call me out on that. And it's flirty, it's healthy communication, it's playful, and it's just light. So you could communicate, you could express your emotions, and you could teach yourself that expressing your needs and emotions are safe and fine. And then coming from this, you can reassure yourself that it's okay, you're safe to express your needs and you're not being too much, you're not overreacting, you're completely 100% very normal to express and have these emotions, whether it's bad or good emotions. You are free and safe to express them, and you have the right to do so. And just another tip though, coming from an avoidant, you can practice these things, this regulate yourself things, by when things are like too emotional and intense, you can ask for space, but it could only be like an hour or less, and you have to face that situation and actually fix it in a healthy way. That's just a tip that helped me, and I'm just sharing it to you. So again, the last and fifth step is try your best and be consistent. Again, if you slip, that's okay. You could always come back. Healing is not linear, and that's fine. So yeah, those are the things and the steps and the tips that helped me, helped other people, and also it might help you as well. If not, it could be just a map for you, or it could be a starting point for your healing journey. And yeah, it's your own journey, and I support you. Just don't hurt yourself and hurt others. And yeah, just try your best to heal and be secure, because that's the ultimate goal, right? To love without fear, to ask for love without fear, and break this toxic and this traumatizing patterns and behavior that were taught to us during childhood. These things were so helpful for me because when I was starting to get to know my man, it was like a very good start. It was so intense, it was so happy, it was so lovely, it was so flirty and light. But then when things are getting serious and I'm starting to think, I might have a crush on him, I just ran for the hills. I'm like, this is a horror movie. I'm not doing this. And then I'm just happy that I ghosted him. And then when I came back, he's just the same patient and happy guy and this amazing person. And now we're very happy with our relationship. By the way, he still talks about this. It's like beating a dead horse again and again. And it just became our inside jokes now. But yeah, I keep apologizing every time, of course. Because he said it hurts. And I get that. It was evil to do that. Okay. So yeah, this tips actually works for me and for other people that I know. And in those 5 days that I ghosted him, I reflected on my childhood. I reflected on my attachment styles. I reflected on my triggers and patterns. And I regulated myself and I came back. And I communicated those things. When I came back, I have like read my journal to him, confessing that I love him, but I'm so scared. And the rest is like happy history. So you just have to believe and trust yourself and do these actions to give yourself reasons to trust you, right? And give yourself reasons to be safe with you as well. So even when you're alone, you have to practice regulating yourself and showing your emotions and calming yourself down to get this ultimate goal that you're going to be a securely attached person someday who doesn't have to run away in order to feel love or chase in order to get that love that they receive. And of course, these things like worries and anxieties and jealousy, they would always come up, okay? So yeah, I hope you learned from this video. I hope you like this video and subscribe. Please, I really need your subscription and I really need your likes. And please comment, what do you think of these videos? Where are you in your healing journey? And what's your attachment style? Tell me, we could have this conversation. And you can follow me on TikTok. You can talk to me there. And you can also subscribe to me on Substack and read some of my works. And There would always be conflicts and fights that you cannot run away from. And there would always be days where you just have to sit in silence with yourself and wait for your partner, right? And again, these things like anxiety and jealousy, it's normal. It will always come back. The thing is, though, the difference is you can now regulate yourself and deal with them in a healthy way. And speaking of jealousy, I have a lot of things to talk about that, especially retroactive jealousy. And I'll talk about that on my next video.